then Mr. Tim Lovett, who is actually a winemaker from that particular estate, and is making very good fine wine. Not bad for Margaret River in Western Australia. Mr. Tim, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
And you know, it's amazing that such profession like yours is very rare these days, and I wish I was one. And no, Tim, tell me, first of all, we would like to know, how did you begin having this cultivation and passion to become a winemaker?
Well, from a very young age, when I was a kid, my family was very focused around the industry. We had a lot of family friends with vineyards, and also a few that were winemakers as well. So I knew from a young age at that, and walking around the vineyard with our friends and family as well, that I knew I wanted to be in the industry at some point.
Now, what does it take to be a winemaker? How did you sniff good grape wine? Is there any criteria that you set yourself, and how did your family respond to your decision to become a winemaker?
Yeah, well, my family is very involved in wine in terms of lots of tasting and consumption, especially with great food and friends. So in terms of what is required, I suppose it's firstly a lot of hard work in regards to in the winery, but it's, I think, sensory, the perception. It's like being a chef. You need to know what you're tasting, why you're tasting it, what you're smelling. So with that, there's a lot of practice involved. There's a lot of teaching as well. So that's basically, I suppose, from my point of view, the beginnings of becoming a winemaker, and then with years in the industry, through various regions as well, seeing the different characters, tasting different varietals from around the world, you gain and you grow with your confidence.
Now, in this growing, uncertainty, as a winemaker, does climate change concern you?
I think to a degree it does. I think for our generation, not at the moment, but it's not about our generation, it's for generations to come. It's about ensuring that our industry is sustainable. So with regards to how we're managing our vineyards, the new plantings of varieties, whether we're moving from a variety that grows well in a moderate climate to a variety that grows better in a warmer climate, there is element for concern, but it needs to be managed in the best way possible in the vineyard.
Now, while you were managing your vineyard and tasting your wines and the grapes, what kind of process does it involve? What's your daily itinerary like?
Well, it's very holistic, my role. So I'm not essentially just a winemaker and stuck in the winery or in the winery producing wines. It really formulates and is really established in the vineyard. So I work very closely with our viticulturists to ensure that we're basically giving ourselves the best opportunity to showcase a real sense of place of Margaret River, which is a very special and a remarkable wine region. And we go through steps from pruning, whether we're running on cane pruning or spur pruning, right through to canopy management, right through to more natural and sustainable methods of creating a carbon and nitrogen balance in the soil. So with that, it comes down to harvest technique as well. So my role as a winemaker is when the fruit comes into the winery, it's about really protecting those characters that comes from each variety that we produce, and really showcasing that real sense of place and that the synergy between the vine and then implementing that into the bottle.
Now, how does one even look for a good prospect in getting a job as a winemaker? In your case, in your experience, how does one, let's say a young, graduate from the university that has studied the art of winemaking
Yeah.
looks for a job in a winery?
Uh, given that person's a graduate, it's all about experience really, and I'm sure that every graduate has their passion, as I did, in terms of what wine varietal they'd like to produce. So, for instance, for myself, when I came out of university, I was, and still am, a huge Pinophile. I was a great lover of Pinot Noir. So, being brought up in Adelaide and studied at Adelaide University, I headed a little further east to the Yarra Valley, Leeuwin station, where they produce fantastic Pinot. And then from there, you can do international travel, do international vintages as well, through the Côte de Leeuwin, if you like. And it's also where I kind of found my love for Chardonnay as well. So hence why I'm at Leeuwin Estate and being a producer of one of Australia's finest Chardonnays.
Yes, now that you mentioned Yarra Estate, because I'm a big fan of Yarra Estate and tried your wines as well, and you must be one of them that have made it great. But speaking about greatness and quality, what kind of challenges does the winemaker face when he makes and selects wines and the grapes and ensuring that the process is up to par? Is it got to do with the climate and the quality of the grapes, or is it the management?
I think with regards to grape growing and owning vineyards, we're a primary industry. We're open to the elements, so that's what is so fantastic about being in the production of wine, is that the wine is like a story. It tells you about the vintage or the climatic conditions, but it also tells you about the viticultural practices that we incorporate, and on a lesser to a degree, the winemaking process. So the challenges involved in dealing with a more maybe a more difficult vintage is the fact that you're constantly proactive and not reactive with regards to the weather. So if it's a cooler vintage, we tend to incorporate a lot more of leaf plucking to open up the canopy to allow in the sunlight. And if it's a warmer vintage, we'll leave more canopy on to shade the fruit. So we're, in essence, creating more of a microclimate for the fruit, depending on if it's a cooler or warm vintage. In terms of other difficulties, I suppose we exist in Margaret River, which is bound by the Indian and Southern Ocean, so it's quite maritime influence. So we're very lucky in the fact that we don't see a lot of disease because there's constant wind flow and air. It's humidity is very low, if you like. So that's one of the reasons why, especially with Leeuwin Estate, it's a remarkable and very magical place to grow wines.
Magic, quality, fine wine in Leeuwin Estate. Why do you choose Leeuwin Estate, or did Leeuwin Estate choose you?
Interesting question. I've been in the region for 8.5 years, and within Margaret River, we're a very small town. So with that, everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows what other people are doing, and in the way that it was suggested, Leeuwin Estate chose me. But I'd always had a fond appeal to work for Leeuwin, being basically a regional pioneer of Margaret River, but also in the production of my favourite varietal, which is Chardonnay.
Oh, Chardonnay. Now, that's one good wine to mention, because that's what most women would go for before they think about anything else, I think. But speaking about Chardonnay, and the kind of process that it takes to work on the wine, is there any a challenge, or I want to say challenge, but the life of a winemaker, does it have a social life, or do you need to work long hours?
You might have to ask my wife that, but with regards to winemaking during vintage time, there are long hours, but there's long hours in every job. I think um, winemaking is not just a job, if you like. It's a passion and it's a lifestyle, and it's a philosophy. So with regards to that, I think and Chardonnay as well. It's a passion.
It's very delicate too.
Yeah, I think that Chardonnay can take on very or various formats. It's like an artist's blank canvas. It can move into the more steely and refined and taut wines, or it can be a little bit more generous and more powerful and elegant. So I think as a winemaker, it's about understanding your site in terms of its capabilities, and then being able to replicate that.
Now, between the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir, which would you prefer to work on?
I mean, we don't produce Pinot, so it's obviously
Yes.
Chardonnay for me.
Of course, but,
Yeah.
but if given the choice, would you rather work on a Chardonnay than a Pinot Noir? Because the Pinot Noir tends to be more delicate.
I think depending on the producer.
Because you work over at the Yarra, right?
Yarra Valley.
Yarra Valley, that's
Yeah.
right.
So, but the Yarra Valley is also very famous for Chardonnay as well. So, given the choice, definitely Chardonnay.
I understand. Now, Tim, let's move forward right now. Being challenged as a winemaker, and now that today your wines have been broadcast to various exhibitions and wine events all around the world, even here in Singapore. Tell us the secret about this wonderful estate, the Leeuwin estate that is, folks, and they have a wonderful label that's been actually published on their wine with art. Now, tell us how this idea of having art on the wine bottles came about for Leeuwin Estate.
Yeah, I think going back to when Leeuwin Estate was founded, founded, owned, and currently operated by the Horgan family, with Dennis and Tricia Horgan. And Dennis and Tricia bought the property in 1969, and that was very much in Mugg River's early inception as a wine region. And from there, first vines were planted in 1976. So we are a regional pioneer, and we exist in a very isolated part of Australia, where we exist as 350 kilometres south of Perth. But the focus in terms of Leeuwin Estate is very holistic. It is an estate which covers 670 hectares of natural surroundings with forests. So the holistic point was that it is definitely the art of fine wine, but it's not just that. We have an award-winning restaurant on site which is connected to the winery, so it's also the art of fine food. But there was a real strong connection with Dennis and Tricia, with a love for the arts, and that came in the form of artwork, but also in the form of concerts and musicians, if you like. So the art series was released on our art series Chardonnay back in 1980, where especially for art series Chardonnay, there is each year there is a new artist and a new painting on the bottle, and with that, certain famous artists like Sir Arthur Boyd, also Sidney Nolan as well, have been pictured on what is now a very iconic product. And I think it's as I said, it's a very holistic message, that it's the incorporation of wine, food, the artists, but also musicians. So in February each year, we hold our Leeuwin Estate concert series. So we've had artists such as Sting, George Benson, Ray Charles, Shirley Bassey, the list goes on. So it's a very holistic and a very effective messaging.
Now, Tim, have you ever got involved in choosing the art pieces as well in this process?
My role is strictly as winemaker, so
Really?
yeah.
They won't give you the leeway.
Yeah, I'd be leading them a little blind if I was to choose the artwork. So Trisha and their daughter, and her daughter Simone, who's the marketing manager, they choose the artwork each year for various wines within the art series.
Is there any one piece of art that appealed to you and you were very fond of when you saw that art piece was published on your bottle of wine?
I think not one particular art piece, but with regards to art series Shiraz, for example, there's a connection that each painting for the art series Shiraz labels of our indigenous culture. So with that, I think I have a great affinity with regards to that, because we are Australian, and I think it's a great way to showcase the indigenous arts.
Now, moving forward, for the Leeuwin estate right now, how did Leeuwin estate been, in this wine business, and it's also very challenging as well in terms of time and effort. How did they able to balance a work life for families and work? Because what sort of programs have they exercised, and the kind of best practices they were able to give benefits to the employees for their hard work?
Yeah, I think that every employee that works for Leeuwin Estate is a very committed individual, and not only that, but they're very passionate. So it's not a mundane thought saying that you're going to work at Leeuwin Estate. So we exist at in a very beautiful part of Australia, which is south of Perth. It's about a 3.5 hour drive, and the hours being in a rural setting are not as demanding for most individuals. So with that, the combination of being able to enjoy and taste the product, as well as being a part of fabulous events that we're able to hold, I think there's only joy to take away from it.
Now, and even for, let's say, if your wife were to have a child and she's pregnant and everything else, does Leeuwin Estate actually takes care of the men like yourself to have some form of maternity leave to be with your wives for some time? Do they have such a program like that?
Yeah, I have a 11-month-old daughter, so yeah, they're always very supportive. I think the key with regards to Leeuwin Estate is it's a sense of community. It's not a multinational business, and I think that's real key with regards to the dynamic of Leeuwin. It's family owned, it's family operated, and it's Dennis and Tricia have built an environment which is very stable and has an incredible sense of community and care.
And so what sort of examples do they provide for families? Especially, you have a 11-month-old daughter, but when she was born, when your child was born,
I can take time off.
You can take time off.
Yeah.
But do they have something like the way Singapore has? Well, Singapore has about probably 2 months for maternity leave for women and sometimes for the men.
Yeah.
But do you think in Australia, do they give more time for the men to be with their wives?
It depends on the environment, whether it's maternity leave for the mother, or the male can take paternity leave. So it depends on the environment.
And so what is the norm for men in Australia? How long can they take for their maternity leave?
The husband would usually take a couple of weeks off work, and then go into gradually some more lighter hours to ensure the balance, really.
Great. Balance for Leeuwin Estate, indeed. Now, moving forward, in this wine fiesta this year in 2012,
really exciting.
It has been really exciting. I mean, you've got a great crowd.
Yeah.
And tell us more about your vintage, for this year and the next. How it has been and cultivated.
Okay, so 2012 vintage. Vintage for Margaret River runs, or we start harvesting in late January, which is quite early for Australia, but that's only because we produce the sparkling, which we have to pick a little earlier. So we start picking late January and then start rolling through to late April, mid to late April when we're picking the last of our Cabernet. So 2012, again, it's another great vintage for Margaret River because of where our location is. We're 5 kilometres, or where Leeuwin is 5 kilometres from the Indian Ocean, and then 35 kilometres from the Southern Ocean. So we have this real buffering influence that we don't tend to get high temperatures above, say, 34 to 36 degrees during the growing season, but at the same time the nights are kept at a very consistent temperature due to the buffering capacity of the ocean. So with that, there was very little rainfall during the growing season, which is perfect with the onset of ripening, because it means that there is no fluctuation in terms of grapes losing any elements of sugar or flavour, most importantly flavour. But for red varietals of Shiraz and Cabernet, it's most importantly achieving tannin ripeness. And the reds are picked a little later, and the nights tend to cool down. So with that, we still have beautiful warm days, and the nights tend to cool down. So in essence, it was an outstanding vintage, and one which will be heralded as one of Margaret River's finest, and especially one of Leeuwin Estates' finest.
Now, being one of the finest, estates in Margaret River, especially the Chardonnay, which is well recognized. What's the philosophy and the art of making a good Chardonnay?
The art comes down to the fruit, but the fruit comes down to the site. So with Art Series Chardonnay, there's only 2 to 3 blocks that may have the potential to go into Art Series Chardonnay, because Chardonnay is a reflection on the site. It's very expressive. It tells you about the soil that it's on. The age of the vines for Art Series Chardonnay are 35 years old, so they have a great buffering capacity given any vintage. They have deep roots, and they spread quite wide as well. So it's about capturing the essence of the site and showing the sense of place, and that replicates to wines in bottle that have great vibrancy, great purity, great clarity as well. So every step is taken with regards to Art Series Chardonnay to ensure that that is carried out to its best ability, right from hand harvesting to ensure that there's no rupture of the berry skin, if you like, to the process of delivering to the winery to chill down that fruit to a lowest point, to protect against oxidation, to really capture, retain and protect all that aromatic profile that I want to see the consumer pour into the glass.
Amazing. Now, what is your ideal soil conditions for you as a winemaker? What would you like to see all year round, forever in Margaret River, if you were given the choice?
Good rainfall in winter, so the rivers are flowing. There's a nice, lush countryside. And then moving into spring, there's a perfect balance between light rainfall and sunny conditions, as well as the westerly wind that we get, lightly and gently blowing through. But further to that, it comes really down to the growing season, beyond a particular time in harvest called veraison, where we don't necessarily want to see any rain, but we don't want excessive temperatures as well. So it's about having consistent temperatures with cooler nights, and a real focus on low wind as well.
Now, speaking about consistency, especially when you bottle the wines these days at a Leeuwin Estate, how do you see the cork and the screw cap?
Well, it's a very important point that you raise. Since 2005, all of our products, all of our wine products are bottled under screw cap, and that basically comes down to, especially in Australia, we're very unfortunate in the fact that we were exposed to a lot of variation with wines which were bottled under cork, and that variation is through not only just cork taint, which is quite evident, but it comes down to random oxidation, comes down to corks leaking, and there's, from bottle to bottle, you have a good bottle or a bad bottle, or a bottle which doesn't show as good, and that may not be faulty, but it comes down to the cork. So what we endeavour to produce is a wine which is bottled under a closure, which has no variability. We have a consistency, we have a consistent line of knowing that as a winemaker, what I produce, what I put into the bottle is what the consumer is going to smell and enjoy and taste outside of the bottle. So with that, we're very adamant that screw caps are the perfect seal for us. There is no endeavour or there's no risk of any faulty issues. And further to that, the longevity of the wines is heavily increased. So wines bottled under cork naturally mature and age with the ingress of oxygen through the cork because it's semi-permeable. With the screw cap, the wines remain tighter, more expressive as well, and able to live a lot longer.
And what kind of shelf life are we looking at for screw caps versus the corks?
It really depends on the wine in question, but for our benchmark and our flagship wine, our Artillery Chardonnay, it's a wine that definitely has life beyond 30 years under screw cap.
Really?
Correct.
For 30 years?
Yes.
And is that a guarantee?
Yeah, absolutely, it's a guarantee. So,
But how do the consumers react to screw caps versus the cork? Does it affect the price as well as the reputation of your winery?
It doesn't affect the price. What we exist now in Australia, which is a new world wine producing region, and since the screw cap initiative started with New Zealand and Australia, well, back in the 90s now, we've seen gradual progression of wines which were initially bottled with screw cap, say for Sauvignon Blanc or for Riesling, those aromatic lifted varietals, and now we're seeing a slow progression because of the successful results of those wines, that a lot of producers now are bottling their whole portfolio with 100% screw cap, and that's regardless of export markets as well. It's basically, there's no argument for us.
Now, as a winemaker, so you're aware about organic wines that's been made in some places in Australia and so forth, and dynamics. Yes. What is your views on organic wines and biodynamics?
I think depending on the producer and depending on the size of the producer and the dynamic of the business and where they're set up, I think there's merit on both. I'm not against organics or biodynamics. I think each philosophy and their philosophies has their merit. At Leeuwin Estate, we endeavour to produce fruit from our vineyards which are sustainable. So we incorporate a lot of more natural means to fertilise our soil. So we use a lot of cover crops with legumes in which formulates nitrogen back into the soil through fixation. We grow a lot of oats and barley, if you like, in the interrows, and when that dies, it produces carbon. So as much as possible, we're always following a minimal interventional line with regards to more commercial practices, if you like.
Now, comparing the process that Leeuwin Estate now is exercising versus biodynamics and organic,
Yeah.
grapes. You know, which do you think is more sustainable, or do you think that the societies are moving towards biodynamics and organic wines in the near future to be?
Yeah, I think sustainability. Are you producing sustainable wines, or are you trying to produce sustainable soils? I think you need to find the balance between basically the energy that you draw out from the soil needs to be replenished. So, with regards to the practices that we incorporate, we ensure that we're creating and maintaining an ecological balance. With regards to running consistently an organic focus, you'll have much more. You tend to get much more variability in your wines, pending the practices that you use. However, the soils will be fine and perfect. But the practices involved for biodynamic wines is widely key messaged at the moment with regards to the lunar cycle and the philosophy there, and also the practices that they use in the vineyard. So I think that there are biodynamic practices incorporated, and I think that they work for certain producers.
Moving forward for Leeuwin Estate, what's going to happen for the next 5 years? And how does Leeuwin Estate, cultivate one of the best success stories in ensuring that their brand was made known overseas, especially Asia and Singapore? What is Leeuwin Estate's success story in making sure that their brand, their wonderful brand, is now being amplified among Asians?
I think so. Getting back to the basics,